Hello there. Today I'm going to be talking about Dr Strangelove, the Stanley Kubrick classic, which I've rewatched again for the millionth time. I first watched this one as a teenager. So this is a video about someone that influenced me from childhood or teenage years that has been, a big influence on me since then. Because when Kubrick, basically it was this one in 2001 I saw when we were young that really made me a Kubrick fan. And then I built through the other ones to watch the other ones. But these were the two that really got me. But Dr Strangelove, I saw well before I understood all the references. But I just loved the energy of it. And I've seen it countless times. I've seen it in the cinema. I've watched it in VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and now in 4K. I actually watched it 4K projected on the screen, so it was nice to actually watch it in very good quality projected, because it reminded me how really well crafted the film is. When you can see it in the big screen, you can just sense of how it was all put together and how it was developed really as a story, which sometimes you kind of miss the atmosphere of it when you're watching TV, because it's already a funny film because the lines are hilarious and all the dialogue is really quotable, but what you miss when you don't see it in the cinema is the fact that Kubrick shoots it like a proper film, and then he adds the humour. He shoots it like it is, it would be a typical 60s, this is a serious film. You've got shots of airplanes, you've got shots of air bases, everyone's at their offices. It feels very much like that. Then suddenly it quietly goes towards absurdity, slowly. The first 20 minutes it feels really much visually like a typical film of that subject. And then they go into the war room and it's a bit more hyperbolic at that point. And then it slowly gets more and more absurd. But also, funnily enough, the conversations become much more human, much more banal in this big space. So it's really weird because Kubrick is very good at seeing, the early scenes are more naturalistic, but they actually have the places where the more bizarre conversations take place are actually in the most banal places, and the places where some of the most, at least for a time, they're talking about how to stop this problem. You have these weird banal speeches amidst this brilliant dialogue in the most absurd, over-the-top places. Because, it's been well referenced that many people who go into the White House and the Pentagon are looking for the war room because everyone thought it was real, and they just invented the film. And it's been used so many times since then. It's just become the visual thing for the Cold War, the war room, which didn't actually exist. But it is a film that, as a teenager, when we was trying to make sense of the world, because we go from being a child when everything's just wow, this is all new, life's all new, to a teenager trying to work out the world, and you've lots of anger. Things don't work right, but you don't know how. You've got these instincts of this doesn't work, that doesn't work, but how does it actually work? This is the first film, but one of the first films I saw that actually made sense, and it made sense by mocking everything. And I've always had a thing now since then for satire. This is a film that probably pushed me towards being really interested in the Richard Lester satires, the general sense of absurdity in life, as a primer for the Louis Buñuel stuff and all that other things that have become a big part of my what I admire in films. Is it's not just naturalism. Naturalism's okay for a bit, but you have to push beyond that. But it's something Alan Clark learned to do. He had naturalism, then he always pushed slightly beyond that to the poetic side of it. I think this film is one of the key films that actually did that in a way that people understood, that actually pushed it forward to be acceptable within cinema, rather than making it more profaced. This one took the idea of there's life and there's something more than life, which is Kubrick's big thing in his films. Is he's not trying to do life; he's trying to do something the shape of life, really. And you may not like it, but it's about how we are, not how we'd like to be. A lot of films are about how we'd like to be, rather than how we are, how we feel, how we make mistakes, how all these mechanisms of a society are formed that oppresses, and how all the flaws actually create that thing. Because we're always thinking it's something else, but it's all us. It's everything human shaped. All the aberrations are human shaped. They're all done by our greed for importance or being viewed as intelligent, and it's just nonsense. This film's all about human hubris. Where you've got a perfect planet with all this nature. There's tons of shots of nature quietly thrown in there to show you what's been lost. And there's always a sense of these people stuck outside the world with the world all around them. So you get the plane flying over all these frozen areas, but it's full of life and it's really interesting. And all these people are so distracted from it by their own little crazy bits of craziness. So Kubrick's actually pretty good at, or he's really good at showing you what they're missing. What's this big picture that they're missing because they're so focused on their little world. And they want to destroy all of it just because they're so paranoid and so scared of each other. So this is the Russians and Americans. You know, you've got communism on one side, the capitalism on the other side, and they're both like looking at each other as if the other was a big evil. And they've got all this mechanism to so the Americans are terrified of Soviet expansion. The Soviets are running low on money and are trying to defend themselves against Americans. Both people misunderstand the other side, but both of them have the instincts to distrust the other side and try to find any information they can. That just goes on through the film. Like, the Americans think they're God-fearing, even though they have no sense of what the God they actually are looking for, because if you read the Bible, it's much more about pacifism and love thy neighbour and forgive trespasses. And this film is about not forgetting anything, forgiving nothing. So they're complete hypocrites when it comes to that, and they're unkind. They look at everything as objects, and then the Soviets are just really these filthy atheists. So you don't really see Soviets apart from a few of them. But every time you see them, they just become very human and very much as like they're just people you're paranoid about. So this is a film that was actually viewed as traitorous by some right-wingers when it came out, because how dare you mock our defence capabilities? Are you a communist? Kubrick was called a communist for mocking the defence thing. When he was just mocking the mechanism of the mutual assured destruction, which was nicknamed MAD. His idea of aiming so much missiles at each other that neither side could survive if everyone was shot. It's crazy. And this film just shows all you need is one person to go insane, one person to see all this paranoia and have it creep into the mind to such an extent that they think, let's just get over with. That's all you need. And then all the mechanisms I've got to defend themselves and to make sure nothing goes wrong, causes the chain reaction of everything going wrong. Everyone's so thought through everything that they've created loopholes that can be exploited, and the loopholes have loopholes, and they're undone by the idea that these Americans as bomber are not going to quit. They think that the world has ended and they have to bomb something. So Slim Pickens plays the gang charge of this one plane who's going to get through, you know. And it's like it's a one Kubrick film where there's a rebellious spirit, and the rebellious spirit is going to blow the world up, which is hilarious. But I mean, that's the thing. This is one of the first films I saw that made me really enjoy dialogue. Like, made me see how important dialogue actually is to show irony and show the craziness of people, and how it always switch types of people. So you've got George C. Scott, one of his best performances. He's so over the top but very relatable, crazy. Of a man who believes in what he is, but he's a total hypocrite at the same time. Like, he loves all this stuff, all these toys, but he cannot look beyond that, like, at all. He's so in love with all his toys, he's kind of oblivious to the outside world and all the effects. And he's just looking at numbers rather than effects. And he hates the president who he sees this very liberal guy who's trying to think of other stuff like not killing lots of people and not being a mass murderer. It's like, what's that? You know, but Sellers has Peter Sellers has three different characters, you know, as President Megan Muffley, which is his funniest character because he's so bland and he plays off all these conversations as a straight man, but he also gets tons of really funny lines in there without being, look at me. And he's also Dr. Strangelove, the character who's a crazy scientist who came from Germany, and it's like how Germany's infected. The German scientists were grabbed by the Soviets and by the Americans, and how their kind of craziness has infected both sides to create this ultimate paranoia that the both scared sides, they're both like scared little boys, both sides, are fed off to try and feel important. He's also the British officer who's helping out at one of the bases as a exchange program, and who's trying to deal with Sterling Hayden as the lunatic who started the whole thing off. And he's great in all the parts. Dr. Strangelove is over the top part, but it's meant to be. You needed someone like Sellers to do that, but his British officer is hilarious because he's so stiff upper lip and he underplays everything so much, even though he's in the midst of this crazy, and he's trying to keep an even voice and keep Sterling Hayden from going mental while trying to work out how to solve the situation. And it's only at the end he finally loses it. It was hilarious when he finally loses it. A buffoonish army colonel who won't let him get on the phone. He's hilarious, and the dialogue is so good between Sterling Hayden and Peter Sellers. It's so funny because it shows you that Sterling Hayden's character is a complete lunatic, but it's all entwined within this American structure of power and a leader and his boys the soldiers are all one big family, and it's all this craziness, and there's a weird gay subtext to it all, and it's just this idea that he's terrified of communism, he's terrified of women, and he's gone so extreme in his misogyny that he's going to blow the world up. It's like, there's lots of stuff you read into it, but it keeps on text to get to the next story beat, but there's so much there, and it's so well done. And then you've got Mick Muffley as the president character who has some of the most amazing conversations with George C. Scott as they're trying to work out the protocols and why the protocols failed. And he's a perfect person for George C. Scott to go over the top with because he's so underplayed. George C. Scott is so blustery, it becomes hilarious. And also when he's dealing with this Russian ambassador and trying to be logical with him, and then try to deal with a drunk Russian president who's and then he's just watching the world go to hell as everything they do just goes to hell. Every little thing they've done fails, and just when they think they're getting somewhere, the Russians they've got a doomsday device, they couldn't keep up the speed with the nuclear race. And it just becomes this thing of the practicalities of, if we don't have enough money to deal with it, to keep doing this. Just human nature keeps on creeping in within the structures. The paranoia of all these people creep through the structures. All the plans are beset by human failure. And it just became, for me, when I was a teenager, an illustration of what life it is, like what to deal with, what you have to deal with. You don't have to deal with crazy people. It's something you do have to deal with as a person. It's crazy people and their strangeness and their absolute belief they are right, even though they have nothing to back it up. Which is a big frustration of life, generally, is dealing with people who are perhaps stupid, perhaps just misguided, or maybe insane, and are just causing havoc. Because this one takes that to the nth degree where we destroy the world, but it's like, throughout this film, people are logically trying to defend programs that don't work, defend their ideology even though it's led to catastrophe. And it's all about defending their hill no matter what. Everybody's defending their hill and nothing's really getting done. The only person is the Peter Sellers president who's actually trying to get something done, and he's just stifled by all these stupid people. And even at the end, he's just gone completely insane. He's been told by this bizarre notion of how they can survive underground, and they're trying to a mind gap of all these dead people in mines who are trying to survive. And it's just like at this point, he's just given in as well to this paranoia because he's just gone. Like no matter what he's done, he's like the one same person. By the end of it, he's just gone as well because he's believing in stuff that's really stupid. And you see it throughout the film though that he's put all this stuff in place as the president. He's allowed all of these things to happen under his reign, even though he's the sanest character. He's allowed all this stuff to get out of control. He's kept Joss Whedon's character in power. He's kept these people in power, so he's not innocent in any way. He's trying to do the best what he can, and that's a big thing as you get older. You see people try to do the best they can, and they still get screwed over because people are nuts. This is just a great film with how nuts people are. I mean, some people don't like it because of that, really. But it's so well done, and the slow build. Because the first third is a slow build of getting all the information out, then there's little character beats, and you're getting to the characters, and then it's a really fast-paced film, because it's a nightmare scenario. The first third is probably the slowest of it, but it sets everything up so well that you don't really notice the time passing. Then we get into the middle part, which a lot of it is really people sitting in offices talking, or in a war room talking to each other. And it's so well done, but the situation's so outrageous by that point, you're really in. But then the conversations become much more relatable to what people are like. And it becomes much funnier and much darker, and it just becomes a sense of humanity going crazy. So that's why this is a film that had a big influence on me. It was just one of those things like, oh, that's how people are. Even though it's outrageous, a bit over the top, it keeps on bringing back to real stability of, yeah, people. I know people like this. This is real, even though it's not. There's enough human nature through it that actually everything's very identifiable as, yeah, this is how the world works. This is how crazy the world actually is. So that's why this film is just so good. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Go watch Dr. Strangelove again. It is wonderful. It is so, so good. Right, bye for now.